Good morning and welcome to this week's Grow, where we gather to recharge, organize, and work here as members at MWEG. We would like to welcome you if you're new here to our Grows. We often do updates and we share information, some education. We have different series that we do here with MWEG. We have our media literacy series and practical peacemaking. And this week we are going to do an update on some of our MWEG chapters with our chapters directors, Kimberly, Powell, and Abby Greenwald. So we are just I'm going to turn the time over to them. They can tell you a little bit about the chapters, maybe where we have chapters, maybe why we have chapters, and what those chapters are doing to in their respective areas. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to them.
Hi, Rachel, thanks. So I'm Kimberly Powell. I'm one of the chapter directors. I live in Utah. And Abby is my coworker.
Hi, I'm Abby Greenwald. I am happy to be Kimberly's coworker and co-director. We work together to oversee the efforts of MWEG that happen in state chapters. And it's a great seat to sit in because we get to see amazing women across the country doing good stuff. And so we're just happy today to talk to you a little bit more about that so you too can know what's going on across the country.
Yeah, so today we're going to share some basic information about chapters, where we have chapters and what they're doing, because not every chapter is exactly the same. And so sometimes you might have some questions, and we hope that we can answer those today. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully. How's that?
Looks good.
Hey.
Good deal. So I think we get to tell you a little bit about this map. So dark purple states are states where we have chapters, and you can see that we have about 12 or 13 of those across the country. We have robust work happening in Idaho, Utah, Texas, and Arizona. And we also have some work happening in the other places. And this last month, we are so excited to be opening a new chapter in Nebraska, or reopening a chapter in Nebraska. And so anyway, that is just really exciting work that's going on. And if your state is dark purple, we hope that you will make sure that you've joined the chapter. And if your state is not dark purple, if it's light purple, that means you have MWEG members there, but not an organized chapter. We want the whole map to be dark purple someday. And so we would just encourage your thoughts and energy to be about how we can increase MWEG activity where you live.
So as I mentioned before, not all of the chapters are doing the exact same things. They all are a little different, just like each of us is a little different. And so we have actually broken our chapters down into levels of the type of work that they're doing. So a dormant chapter is a state that has had leadership in the past, but it doesn't currently have a chapter coordinator or other volunteers. So there are members there, but they're just not organized into a chapter right now. A level 1 chapter, we have lots of those, and they are doing really awesome things. The focus of a level 1 chapter is to encircle, educate, and empower, which, as you know, are 4 of the limbs of our MWEG tree. And so this is a really important level as membership grows and as people become more comfortable with advocacy work and with membership in the organization. They can really learn a lot in these level 1 chapters. A level 2 chapter is still doing all of the work of a level 1 chapter, but at level 2, they really start to get out in the work of engage, which is state and local advocacy. There's a lot of support and training for the chapters who are doing that work, and they work a lot with the national leaders of MWEG. And then a level 3 is doing all of the work of level 1 and level 2, but they also have more active membership. They probably have more members. And so they're able to do a little bit more advocacy work, including some that would originate at the local and state level.
So chapters are led by teams, teams of women who work closely with Kimberly and I. And at the head of each chapter team is a chapter coordinator. And as I thought about the women across the country who are chapter coordinators, I thought of the phrase strong shoulders and warm hearts. And I believe that to be true of them. They tend to have hearts that are big for their co-citizens and for people who will be impacted by legislation. They have warm hearts for the other women of MWEG who will work alongside them. And they have strong shoulders. They have level-headed, reasonable thinking, and they can manage a lot of work and still shoulder that load while keeping their heart warm and inviting. So that role has a lot of hats to wear. We trust those chapter coordinators to build a sense of community, to oversee communications within their chapter, and to work closely with others for legislative work. We know that they are consistently collaborating with other members of their team. Again, they work closely with Kimberly and I, and we do offer as much support as we can, sometimes in the form of training. So the chapter coordinators have an opportunity to grow in their organizational knowledge and also with job skills. And another resource that we offer to a coordinator is the chapter handbook. That's been kind of our baby for quite a while, and we were able to finish a version just lately. And so it's something that we are happy to offer to chapter leaders to guide their work.
So within a chapter leadership team, especially chapters that are doing any of the engage work, ideally they would have volunteers who are working on a legislative committee that might have a legislative committee lead. So the volunteers on the legislative committee are working really closely with the chapter coordinator. They're sharing a lot of the amazing materials that MWEG already has available, like Know Your Vote, Grow Your Vote, and Principled Citizen. So they're taking those initiatives to their chapter members and really implementing them there. They're also learning about the state legislative process and then educating their chapter members on that. I kind of laugh about this part. If someone had told me that would be my job a few years ago, I would have said, I have no idea how to do that. I don't know what my state legislative process looks like. I don't know when they meet, who my representative is. And that's okay, because in MWEG, we are here to educate each other and to learn. And so first, those legislative committee members are learning a lot of information, they're researching, and then they're going out and sharing that with their chapter members. And then they're possibly working on state, local, and national advocacy along with their chapter coordinator and with other national leaders. This made me think the more the merrier, like really for this to be effective and at the state level, we need more people to be willing to come onto these legislative committees. It's okay if you don't know everything yet, like come and learn with us and grow with us, and we can do more together.
Good deal. Kimberly, I'm going to talk about communications and encircling, but while I do, would you drop me the link that it goes with my next slide?
Okay.
Thank you. I had a little bit of a snafu this morning, and I intended to be able to do the grow from home with my computer and all my tabs well organized, and that's just not how the day has happened. But it doesn't take a lot for me to be able to talk to you about chapters, because I love them and they're part of my life. And so there's a lot to say, even if it's not perfect and polished. So one of the parts of MWEG chapters that I especially love are the encircling parts. And that is MWEG speak for relationship building and calling each other in to a community. And so you can see here that I've got a picture of a Capitol building, just a generic Capitol building here in the middle, because it is kind of the centerpiece, right? It's what we tend to gather around. A lot of times we say, you have to have something to invite the women to. And we have learned that our MWEG women tend to gather around ways that we can educate each other, ways that we can grow and serve together, and it tends to be about civics. And so we do gather in meetings. You can see I've got a picture of a meeting table there. Our women do gather in meetings, usually within a chapter on a monthly basis or maybe quarterly. We do send a newsletter. So if you're not into social media, that's totally fine. We get it. And we send you an email newsletter once a month or once a quarter to keep you updated on what's happening in your chapter. And then if you are into social media and you're willing to follow MWEG, each MWEG chapter has a private discussion group. And so if you were to look for those, you could search on Facebook, MWEG, and then your state. So you could search MWEG Utah, MWEG Idaho, MWEG Nebraska, and you could find that discussion group that's meant just for you in your state. We also have a Twitter account that's Big MWEG National. It's not chapter specific, but it is a way to stay connected. And then a few of our chapters have Instagram accounts. So if you are in Texas or Idaho or Arizona, you could find MWEG Texas, MWEG Idaho, and Mormon WEG Arizona on Instagram to follow along and keep in touch with us that way.
Abby, I sent you that link in a ping.
Thank you, I got it.
Okay. So another thing that our chapters are sometimes doing is working with other organizations at the state and local level. They may have someone on the leadership team called a community partner specialist, but we're really working at the chapter level on building working relationships with local organizations, both nonpartisan organizations that are already doing maybe some service work in the state and communities, and teaming up with them. There's already so many people who are doing really good things, and MWEG sees the value in working with other orgs in that way. And then, so at the chapter level, when we're doing that, it can provide opportunities for chapter members to engage with those other organizations as well. We know that sometimes service is the gateway to advocacy. And so when we're out in our communities and learning from other people, then we can see what they truly need, and that can help us in our advocacy efforts. This is a thing that we really need more of in our chapters. And so if that sounds interesting to you, please reach out and let us know.
Great. So just before the MWEG conference in March, Kimberly put out a call for some member testimonials. We knew that we would have a little table at conference to tell about chapters, and we wanted some of our members' own words to share at that booth. And so this week I took all of those and I dumped them in a word art generator. And this is the picture that it came up with. And I super like it. It has MWEG chapter, like front and center in big letters. And then the next big word that you see there is love. And I was charmed, I think, by reading through these comments after I made this and realizing like everybody said the word love somewhere. And then there's at least a mention of Jesus somewhere in there as well. And so I feel like those things are in fact cornerstones for us. We tend to be loving people, and we are living out that love for others through some of our civic activity. And so you can see here there's other big words, but it's like women, passionate, intelligent, opportunity, engaged. So there are just some great words here that were pulled out. And I do also want to share with you a few of these quotes. So these will all be anonymous, but this first quote says, "I love our MWEG chapter because it has given me the tools I need to understand the legislative process and make my voice heard." And another quote says, "I have found fulfilling connections among the women in my chapter. We encourage and uplift each other as we learn and advocate together." And the next one says, I love our chapter because the members are kind, thoughtful, well-educated, and empowered. This chapter, through collective efforts, is current on issues and, above all, ethical. And then this last one is, I love my chapter as a place of belonging, learning, and support. I love acting collectively and individually to make a difference in our state. And mostly, I love these good women who are becoming beloved friends. I think that's our hope. Our hope is that members will come to an MWEG chapter and feel like they found a place of belonging, a place of support, a place of education, and a place where they can make true friends.
I love those, Abby. Thanks for sharing that. I like hearing directly from our members. So next I'll just give an update on what some of our chapters have been doing recently. So many of our chapters have just been participating or are currently participating in some advocacy and education around their state legislative sessions. Almost all of our chapters, or many of them at least, have done some amount of education for their chapter members during the legislative session, letting members know when the legislative session is happening, what will be happening, how a bill becomes a law, how to contact your representatives. So really good information can be found within your chapter. There's also been a lot of building relationships with legislators, both before the legislative sessions and during them. There's been meetings with candidates and with representatives, and just really working on build bridging, finding commonalities, and hopefully working through some differences sometimes as well. If that's something that you're interested in, then let your chapter coordinator know or let us know, because when we have meetings, you can be invited and to attend those meetings with us. If you want to just come as a participant at first, as a observer at first and just watch and see how it happens, like that's totally okay. And eventually you can work up to participating in those meetings as well. So for specific advocacy, we have several chapters that are at a level 2 and have been doing some of that engaged work this session. So several chapters participated in advocacy around voting rights and ballot initiatives. And then for shoulder to shoulder, this year, at least 2 chapters have advocated officially for the rights of refugees and immigrants. For children and family, at the chapter level, we've really worked a lot on Medicaid expansion and healthcare for women in their postpartum stages. Caring for creation, I think you heard a lot of that last week from Christy Carter-Bake. She does so much work with our chapters on environmental advocacy, and Nevada had a big win recently with a new national monument, so we were super excited for them. Chapter members have worked together to write op-eds on all of these advocacy areas. And really, I just think that working with the chapter makes this advocacy more accessible for women who have busy lives. So if you think like, I care about these things, but I don't have enough time to be involved, like get involved with your chapter. And if all you have is an hour a week, we can help you find the best way to put that time to use.
So if you do find yourself to have a little bit of time to become involved in your chapter, these are some ways that we can see you doing that as a member. As a chapter member, you can participate. You can register, make a true MWEG account, and become an official member. And you can attend meetings, you can attend events. Those chapter meetings are a great place to discuss, but also there's discussion happening online in those Facebook discussion groups. And then you can share. So you can share what you have learned. You can share some of the things that MWEG produces on its public-facing social media accounts, and some of our official statements on things as they come up too. And then, like Kimberly said, if you find that you have about an hour a week, our chapter volunteers lead collaboratively. We recognize that everybody is busy, and we try to sort of ebb and flow and work together in a way that lets us all sort of meet the needs of our lives. So we know that chapter coordinators and legislative leads get really busy. up to 5 hours a week and sometimes more during the legislative session. And then there are quieter seasons when you might go a week or two without having much more than an hour of work to do. So, and then we mentioned a little bit ago when we were looking at the map, if you want to help us turn that map dark purple, there are some foundational steps that we would need to take in a state before that state would become eligible to open a chapter. But if that is some community building, organizing work that you might be interested in, our email addresses are here. They're just our names at MWEG.org. So it's abby.greenwald@mweg.org, kimberly.powell@mweg.org. We would be happy to chat with you about the possibilities the future might hold for your state. Okay.
There's that map again.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much for letting us talk about chapters today. We do love them and invite you into them.
Yes, I can say I'm in Arizona, and Arizona has a pretty healthy member number here in Arizona. And so I know that there's an active chapter here. Utah has a great active chapter, Idaho. You guys can also name a few that are fairly active, because obviously I don't know. I mean, you can see on the map, but some are very, very busy. And some of the things I guess you guys can answer to what what do you think is maybe the most important part of joining the chapter for the members? Like how do you feel the members? I mean, we talked about some testimonials, but like, what do you guys see? Because you guys get a front row seat to what each chapter does. But do you feel that it's maybe that it's connecting members, or do you feel like it's the education part, or all of the above?
I do think it's all of the above, but the first word that comes to my mind is community. Like for those who were in attendance at the spring conference, and we just like everyone who was there, like, these are my people. It feels so great to be here with my people. I think that you can get a little bit of that feeling every time you go to a chapter meeting. Like, it's a smaller group, but it's still my people. I'm not alone in the world. Like, we're all working together to be educated and to make a difference. And it, just community.
Yeah. And I know that there's some chapters where something is kind of percolating in their state that they're working on. That's not a big national thing that MWEG, you won't really see a lot of it. Maybe in the discussion group, it would be something they talk about in their chapter, their own chapter group, right? And I think it's important that our members that are not active in their chapter understand that it does provide opportunities to go, and maybe the whole chapter, the chapter as a whole won't go and at the legislative sessions to push for something, but you definitely will get support on the things that are important to you, right? And that's one of the great things that MWEG provides, is that education piece to help people, push them to know what or how to move forward and be proactive on matters that might be personally important to individuals. So thank you so much for your explanation of chapters and giving us that overview of where they are. I put in the discussion group a link. If you are in the discussion group but are not a registered member of MWEG, I would encourage you to join MWEG so that we can connect you with your chapter and with other women who are members of MWEG that might be in your area. That's the best way for us to help you find those people, find your people, as Kimberly was saying at the conference. Many women who had never attended, or maybe weren't even members but had heard about our conference. It really gave them that sense of community. If you are interested or curious about any part of the conference that we talked about, you can still watch the recordings of those videos. You can register for the virtual experience of that, and they're available online. If you register, you'll just get a link to all of the workshops and presenters from that day. So thank you so much, Kimberly and Abby, for being with us today on the Grow. And we look forward, you guys will be back, I'm sure, in a few months maybe, but we look forward to having our members back next week. So You can have a good day.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.